Now we were also discussing the fact that a captive power producer, for that matter, any power producer, has to inject more than 100%, to stay on the right side of the UI scheme. The UI will penalize you, and because you're producing power, you cannot be sure that if you're producing a certain quanta of power, that will go definitely at that desired quanta only. So if you're producing a certain amount of power and you're scheduling it at 105 or 110%, what is the problem then, and why should there be a problem at all?
There should be no problem, but there is a problem at the moment. The laws or the guidelines which the Chhattisgarh government is following at the moment is that beyond 101%, they don't pay you at all, which is completely ridiculous. I mean that's not correct at all. I mean, why should you produce power, put it into the grid and not get paid for it? So and when you're doing that, there's a very simple system under the Electricity Act, is the UI charges settlement system. So if you're generating and putting in more, you earn UI, and if you're generating less than scheduled, you pay UI. Now the board, the utility in the Chhattisgarh, collect that UI, but don't pass it on to the generator, because over 101% they don't pay you at all. But that is a very big anomaly, and I think that the government should expeditiously resolve.
Yeah. Finally, Mr. Jajodia, what is your vision for the growth of the infrastructure, the power and the industry in India, and what will Monet's role be there?
You see, obviously everybody has recognized very well that there's a huge deficit of overall infrastructure in the country, and a lot needs to be done there. And the governments have recognized that and have allocated large budgets. Of course, not much of it we have seen on the floor yet, but all Indian businesses are very, very hopeful that all of that will come through very soon, which means that they have tried to cater around to facilitate that growth. Monet, in its own humble way, wants to put in more and more investment in steel making, basically in products which piggyback on infrastructure. For example, rebars, for example, structural steel, for example, plates, all of which is required to build this infrastructure we are planning to build, which essentially means ports and bridges and housing and
nuclear
power stations as well. So all of that require these long products, which is being produced by Monet, and we are increasing further capacity in those areas, as well as plates. And the other side, we want to generate more and more power, because without power, no development or no infrastructure can grow. Power is a very basic essential requirement for any growth to happen, and so we want to contribute that. We're just setting up a 1,000 megawatt IPP project in Angul, Odisha. We are contemplating to put another 1,320 megawatts in Gujarat in a port there. We own some coal mines in Indonesia, so we want to fuel that station with the coal from Indonesia, and that's how. So that's how we want to increase our power portfolio, while still concentrating on our core strength of steel making.
In that case, 3 prescriptions from you for the government to incentivize generation in the power sector.
Simplify these rules further. There is lack of clarity between what's happening or the vision of the central government vis-a-vis the states. So have some way to ensure that the states follow suit and are able to appreciate that and share that vision, because what states are doing is they're having a very limited point of view, and they only think from their own state point of view, and they're not really thinking from national interest point of view. So that's one. I would say I don't know what other. Of course, interest rates is another issue, which easier availability of funds for creation of these power assets is one. The coal mining business. You see, a lot of coal mines were given out in the past on captive basis. There was, of course, more demand than supply. So people were given out for only 10 years of satisfaction or level, or 15 years of satisfaction level, whereas a power plant normally exists for about thermal power plant exists for over 30 years. Government of India has now decided to auction coals. That's a very positive step, because if oil blocks can be auctioned, if other things can be auctioned, why not coal blocks? So serious players will come forward and understand the value of that coal and buy it out to set up the power plants, whereas the non-serious players who basically have taken in the past coal mines just to trade and make some money on the side will obviously back off, because the auction prices will be high. So I think the government is doing quite a lot. That there's a need to create more link between north and west, and the grid link, which Power Grid of course has a big plan, but it's going slow, because there's a lot of times that you'll see the prices of power being at 9 rupees,
Right.
but you're selling power at only 5, because you cannot carry your power from western region to the northern region there, because it's choked, the link is choked. So these infrastructural issues, I think, will get resolved. Everybody recognizes that these issues exist, and that's the main thing in the first place. And I think the government as well as the private sector are working towards it to resolve these issues. And I think India is on a fundamentally sound footing and in the right direction. And it's just that things need to gain some pace. It's been just too slow.
Right.
The thought has been right, but it's just been implementation has been very slow.